This is Get Real with Bob and Stacey, the show that helps you learn about the mortgage and real estate markets. Get the inside scoop from their expert list of guests and have some fun along the way. Now, here's Bob Gallagher and Stacey Alcorn.
Welcome back. You're listening to another exciting edition of Get Real with Bob and Stacey here on the Money Matters Radio Network. Stacey couldn't be with us for the first segment today, so we have Mark Delbarn sitting in with us, and a special guest in the studio today, Mike Durkin from Lair Realty Partners. How you doing, Mike?
Good morning. Good afternoon. Thanks for having me.
Well, thanks for being with us. So we invited you on the show today to talk a little bit about what's going on in the real estate market out in Worcester County, out in Boylston, the boroughs, that sort of thing, especially that part of the market versus what's going on inside Boston.
Well, you know, I look at both markets as extremely different. But the problem is all the press, everything is centered around Boston. Even the Globe and the Telegram are owned by the same buyer. But the press has a focus. Oh, there's multiple bidding wars and this and that. In Boston, there are. In 495 belt, there are not. Even though inventory is low, we still offer extreme value versus Boston. I mean, many times I get 30-somethings out here to buy a house. They're paying rent $2,800 a month in Boston. They come out here and see what they can buy for $2,800 a month. It's eye-opening, particularly for young families and everything we've got going on in Central Mass now.
Right. Yeah, inside Boston, $3,000 a month gets you probably under 1,000 square feet.
Yeah, 900 square feet is why here, 800 to 900.
Wow. Can you imagine that? $3,000 a month for that?
Right. I had a guy interview for my assistant's position, and he's a leasing agent in Boston. Mm-hmm. And what was most impressive, he did 160 apartment rentals last month.
For the month?
For the month.
Wow.
160.
How do you do 160 rentals in a month?
And he works Sunday through Thursday. So that's the kind of market that's there. Everybody wants into Boston.
Wow.
But, when you look at values and property and economics and why your money matters out here, it's because of the value we offer.
Right. Right. So if you're looking, rent is one thing, but if you're looking to buy in the city, I mean, it's hard to touch anything under $800,000-900,000 if you want even a little bit of space.
Right. And if you want anything good.
Yeah. And we've got people that are looking to stay close to Boston because they don't want to deal with the commute. And I remember the bargain towns, which nobody wanted to live in really, like Chelsea and Everett, not that it was that bad, but Medford. Now those are like high-end towns. Now you're looking at 1,000-square-foot condos or lofts that have been converted. They're selling for $500,000 and $600,000 in Everett. Right,
and a lot of the 26 to 30-year-olds from Northborough, Southborough, Westborough moving into South Boston, Chelsea, Charlestown, the waterfront to rent with 2 or 3 of their friends to enjoy that kind of lifestyle.
Right.
But they'll all migrate back here again.
Right, yeah, because when you have a wife and kids and yeah, it's a different story. I mean, you're going to need more than 900 square feet, and you can't have 2 roommates to help you, split the bill. So why don't we talk about the value proposition you get out here? I mean, what are the value cities that you describe?
I think the value cities now, are our primary towns once again of Southborough, Westborough, Northborough, Marlborough, Hudson, Boylston, Grafton, all, even as far west as Holden. With the opening of the new high-speed rail from Worcester to Boston that was announced today, it's going to be an exciting time for practice realtors. We're going to see, because I remember in the 90s, I'm dating myself, but in the 90s when the rail opened in Southborough, Westborough, and Grafton.
Right.
I had transferees from across the country calling me before I knew it was opening.
Really?
And technology at that time really was in its infancy, so you had to call the MBTA, then you had to wait, and they send you a package, and they showed you the proposed sites. But, people had known about it, and it made a significant difference in housing stock and values in the 90s. And I think with the high-speed rail in Worcester that was announced today, we're going to see another significant. At least we'll see a lot more transactions.
Right.
Values, we'll see how the inventory gets flowed. But go 12 months out, we're in a different market.
Right. And you're seeing the same thing happen, when they revitalize the commuter rail that goes from, it starts now in West Fitchburg and goes into Boston. I had a customer telling me earlier this week that he can commute from Ashburnham to the train station and then be at North Station and then be at Beacon Hill in like 55 minutes.
You know what? Imagine driving that.
Yeah, you could live in Brookline and not make it in 55 minutes.
Exactly. Yeah. And, it's like Uber. You'd be a $47 cab ride from Brookline.
Yeah, if you're lucky, it'd be $47. Right. Yeah. So one of the things that's driving the markets, it's the job creation. One of the reasons that you're seeing the massive spike in values and multiple offers on bidding wars is all the jobs are being created inside 128.
Right.
But the good thing for us out here on the 495 belt is with all that demand for housing units inside that 128 belt, it's driving prices up to the point where it's just simply not affordable anymore for the average person.
Years ago when I was a kid and I went to Boston State College on Huntington Ave, I used to drive in every day. Well, I had paid $100 for a Falcon back then. This was a Ford Falcon. I could get in from Northborough to Boston State in 36, 37 minutes and parked like nothing.
Really?
No traffic. Now, and it used to be up until like 2000, I used to tell people, if you get on the road by 7, you're good. Now you got to be on the road by 6. And even then, from this area, from Northborough, Westborough, Southborough, Boylston, you could be looking at an hour and a half to 2 hours getting on the road at 6.
Yeah.
So now that you can take a high-speed rail, take the rail.
Yeah. I mean, I can't imagine wanting to sit in a car for an hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes versus, 45 minutes on a train.
No, and everybody drives alone. That's just the way New England is. You're not going to carpool with your friends.
No.
They can follow you.
Yeah.
But they are not going to ride with you.
No. What do you think the reason is behind that? You look at the carpool lanes, and they're usually pretty much empty on the highway in the morning.
I honestly track it to the old New England mentality. They're self-sufficient kind of. You know what? It's like even the way I live. I like to wave at people, but I don't want to stop and talk. I've talked with people for 12, 14 hours a day, 7 days a week. You know what I mean? When it's over, it's over.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of that exists in New England. If you go down to our reload points from around the country are like Houston, Plano, Alpharetta, Georgia, Naperville, Illinois. There's a different way of life. But in Naperville, Illinois, when they build a neighborhood, they build 900 homes, 2 elementary schools, convenience stores. So it's a really sense of community. What we've got going on out here now in Central Mass is really infill communities, 4, 5, 6, 7 lots. And the average buyer would love to live in a 100-lot subdivision or 150 or 200 because we're a nation of sameness.
Right.
So that's what they come from. That's what they're looking for. Then finally they filter out. I mean, if I had to buy a house that was 20 years old or buy a new build, because of the energy code in Massachusetts, I'd buy the new build.
Right.
It's fantastic, the cost of heating these houses. And when you give that knowledge to the kids from Boston that are coming in, who now have high-speed rail, have a room and backyard for the dogs and everything, it's a tremendous value proposition.
Right. Yeah. What would you say is, for a first-time buyer that's looking to come out here out of the city, looking to spend, $2,500 or $3,000 a month? What are you showing them for houses, value range?
Value range, $400,000 to $600,000.
Right.
Really depends on the tax rate, and your insurance, homeowners insurance gone up. A lot of things have gone up. Most preferred heating source right now is natural gas. Propane is being built on a lot of new houses.
Yep.
And propane prices have tumbled, and now I've got builders giving 3-year locks on propane bills and.
Wow. But
the efficiency of these new houses is unlike anything our generation or the next generation or even the millennials had seen.
Right.
The Northeast is primarily an oil heat.
Right.
But wherever there's gas now, that's, people are flocking to it.
I remember back in the day, nobody really wanted natural gas in their home because everybody's worried about explosions. And now people don't want to look at houses unless they have natural gas.
Right, and it still explodes, but
yeah, but it's worth the risk for the price, right?
Hopefully, it's your neighbors, not yours,
or maybe a couple neighbors down, not right next to you. Yeah. So for $400,000 to $600,000, Mike, what are people getting for square footage?
On in Northborough, in Shrewsbury, and Boylston, you'd be looking at $400,000, probably splits, raised ranches, bigger capes. As you climb up into $600,000, you're looking at 20-year-old colonials anywhere from 2,200 feet to 2,800 feet, or you could buy Like if you could find a brand new colonial that was 2,300 feet, which is rare because land costs are so high out here, they build bigger.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you'd be looking at spending $550, $600.
Yeah.
But with the new technology, you get new products. So, you know, that's your price flow.
Yeah.
It really depends. I mean, there's a neighborhood in Boylston, which I think is one of the nicest in Central Mass. It's Mount Pleasant Estates. Acre-plus lots, gorgeous houses, anywhere from, 3,000 to 4,000 feet. And most of them have all been redone. The people who have owned them for 25 and 30 years have put the granite in, put new kitchens in, new doors, new roofs, pools. So everything's done.
Yeah.
Versus new construction, which like in Northborough, I have a nice little neighborhood, 700,000 for 3,000 feet, but it's all Energy Star efficient. To heat that on a cold winter's month, you're probably looking at 200, 2.25.
Wow, that's it to heat
Right.
3,000 square feet.
3,000 feet.
Wow.
It's all our HERS rating, which is your home energy rating score.
Yeah.
On these houses is between 50 and 56, which is staggeringly low.
Wow.
But the process and the technology has all changed where it costs the builder a lot more money to comply with the energy code, but what the consumer's getting is drop dead light and day ahead of what you could get 5 years ago.
Right. Well, and then you look at some of the older housing stock, like around Worcester or Auburn, and people that live in, like my sister lives in a small cape that was built in the 50s. I think it cost her $500-600 a month to heat.
Right. But think about it now. That house probably cost her $200,000. So
Exactly.
we're going to see a lot of the work that's being generated with, like GE just announced today, they're putting in a new facility somewhere in the Boston area for their power company.
Mm-hmm.
We got GE Healthcare transferring people in from New Jersey to Marlboro right here.
Mm-hmm.
Now with the high-speed rail, you can live in Worcester. Go to Boston if you want. You don't have to pay the rate in Boston to get the advantages of owning a house in Central Mass.
Right.
And I think with the high-speed rail, we're going to see a significant increase in sales first, and price appreciation will be reflective of what interest rates are.
So with high-speed rail coming out here and knowing you can't build any big subdivisions or really anything inside 128 anymore, how long is it before we start to see big-scale subdivisions going in Worcester County?
But most of them have been, in these towns have been done. You're in Shrewsbury, Northborough, Hopkinton, even Boylston, because Boylston's it's a reservoir town. And by that I mean the MDC buys a lot of land to preserve the quality of water for its reservoir, which gets shipped to Boston. Most of the big subdivisions are done. But if you get into Leicester and Spencer and those areas, there's still land to go.
What about Berlin and Bolton?
Berlin is in Bolton's probably at build out. Harvard's at build out. Stowe's close to build out. Berlin is such a tightly managed town. It's a right-to-farm community. I don't think you're going to see a lot of subdivisions. And they have done a fantastic job managing their growth. They put it at the ends of towns. They collect the revenue. And if you drive through Berlin Center, you'll think you're on a horse-drawn buggy.
Yeah, it feels like going back in time.
Yes, it really does.
Yeah.
But I don't even think you got big subdivisions available there because of the farming, because of the 61A, and the town does a great job at preserving their open space in their land under Chapter 61A.
Yeah. So you don't think some builder will see the dollar signs and plop on a 40B?
Well, they got a 40B approved on the Rotary there, which is going to be 100-plus units. A guy from Westboro's doing it. He hasn't started because the market is still kind of soft, but he's got components of it.
Wow.
Well, the biggest thing that happened in Berlin in years was the Rotary had a new Shell/Dunkin' Donuts put in.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Now it's like a double rotary. They had another rotary off the back of the rotary.
Yeah, I hit that the other night, and I mean, wow, what is this?
I've never seen anything like it.
I thought it was a practice rotary for the next one. And then drive that rotary again today, because I went back the next day. Part of it just drives into a field.
I noticed that. It literally does. It drives into a cow pasture.
Yes. So that's Berlin, but that's why people love it. If you love the country, Berlin and Boylston are a place to move to.
Yeah. Because you have all the amenities you need, but you don't feel like you're on top of each other.
And your dollar goes far, and you're really 5 minutes from everything.
Yeah. And when we talk about prices out in Worcester County versus Boston, it's not even necessarily Boston. I mean, the prices that you see once you get even a little bit east of 495, like Southborough, Natick, Hopkinton, I mean, you look at the prices down there versus Northborough, Westborough, Boylston, Shrewsbury.
Right.
I mean, it's still a big difference.
There's probably a 4.5% to 7.5% swing for the same house.
Right.
Between, if you go into Natick and then buy that same house in Northborough, let's say.
Yeah.
I mean, these new houses that I have in Northborough at Village Walk, it's called.
Mm-hmm.
Down in Natick, they'd be $850, $900. There's $700 in Northborough.
Wow.
3-car garages, 2-acre lots on a cul-de-sac. How can you
For
beat it?
$700?
$700,000.
Wow.
And all Energy Star compliant.
Yeah, I don't think you could get a fixer-upper in Natick these days for $700.
No, I don't either. And the Natick market is cool, but, part of my networking system, I always talk to the brokers from the other areas because whatever happens in their area goes just like a wave into our area. It's just a question of when.
Yeah.
If they slow down, then 3 to 6 months, we're going to slow down. If they're fast up, then we're going to get it in 3 months.
Yeah. So next spring, we're probably going to be looking at a pretty busy market out here.
I think so.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm starting to see signs of a pickup right now. July was a throwaway month.
Yeah.
August wasn't that good. Our spring market was all of 3.5 weeks.
Yeah.
And anybody that tells you different doesn't know the market because
Right.
you know what? At any given time, I have 20 to 25 listings in all price ranges. So it's a good arbiter of what's happening in the market and who's moving in. You see the concentric effects of somebody buying one of my low end houses and moving up to the middle end,
Right.
or somebody selling the middle end and moving up to the higher end.
Right.
People who live in these towns now are spending a lot of money remodeling because they got great lots.
Yep.
Why not remodel and live it and do what you want?
Yeah.
So those are things that play into our market.
Yeah. So all in all, good things to come.
Good things to come.
Good. Thanks for joining us on the show today, Mike. Really
Alrighty.
enjoyed having you.
Okay, thank you very much for having me, Mark. Have a good night.
All right, so that's going to do it for this segment of Get Real with Bob and Stacey. Stay tuned. Stacey will be joining us in the studio next. We've got more coming at you.